We're about to take a look at the new, completely redesigned audio editor here in Liquid Edition version 6. And if this were a car, we're about to pop the trunk and see what makes other people's windows rattle as we drive down the street. Now, before we open the audio editor, I just wanted to point out that I've chosen the screen layout on the Q here with the symmetric inlay sizes without the left and right toolbars. And the reason for that is the new audio editor does take up quite a bit of space, and choosing this layout gives me a little more room to display my audio editor. So having said that and adjusted my screen as such, I shall now come down to the middle of my screen, and there is the audio editor. There are other ways to open up the audio editor, and I wanted to show you. If I come down here to my keyboard map and click on it, coming over here, F2 is the CG titler, F3 is the audio tool, and F4 is the audio editor. So again, let me encourage you to learn keyboard shortcuts so that you can maximize the speed of your work by using both hands. And sometimes it's just faster to hit F4 than it is to move your mouse to the toolbar and click on the audio editor. Or you could open up the keyboard map here and click on Open Audio Editor, and hey, look at that. It's not just a pretty map, it's actually interactive. So notice it also changed to my timeline master viewer instead of the global shortcuts. So I shall close my little keyboard map down, and now let's take a look at the audio editor. Just by looking at it, it does look a little different, and part of that is just reflected in the new interface style. You can see that the buttons reflect the blue-purple color. When I mouse over them, they turn purple. When I click on them, they still turn gold. So notice on the side of each one of these faders, there's this numbered meter from 0 all the way down to, what, 50 maybe? Something like that. Let me just back up the video here and hit play and see what happens. Hey, look at that. Audio meters for each channel. That is very, very nice. Now, why don't we see anything over here? Well, because I don't have any audio on any of these tracks. So there's A1. If we look down here on the timeline, there's A1. It's got my music for this introduction. Can I pull that down? Nope. Maybe if I pulled it down now. Oh, look. Oops. I just added a keyframe just like that. I want to get rid of that, so I'm just going to click, drag, and I'm just rubber banding just like that. Same as always. So each track now has its own audio meters. That's kind of nice. Now, it used to be if I clicked up here, there was a little box that would drop down and I could assign each fader to any of the tracks on my timeline. Well, that's kind of been changed. Here I am with my mouse over the V1 track. If I come over here to the speaker column and turn that on, did you see what just happened there? V1 has been added to my mixer layout, and then everything got pushed to the right, and now the stereo master bus is over here. So it's quite easy to assign new faders just by turning the speakers on and off, just like that. Let me turn some of these others off. Let's just work with A1 for now, give ourselves a little bit more room. So as I turn these off, those faders disappear in my mixer. And now I'm just left with Audio 1 and the stereo master bus. So again, let's play through. So there is my audio track and then the master output to the stereo bus. So we're already starting to see some of the changes within our audio mixer. Does this mean if I had, say, 20 audio tracks, I could have 20 faders on my mixer? Well, actually, yes. I think one of the new things that we need to start bugging Pinnacle for is to be able to unlock this mixer window and to be able to drag it over to a second monitor. Can I click and drag? No, darn it. Oh well. Maybe in the next revision. But wait, there's more. It gets more exciting. So let's play this one more time. Go back to the beginning here. And notice the little peak meters up here, showing where I peak out at. And again, that's for each particular track. So again, very handy stuff here. Now if I mouse over this particular fader, you can see the bubble help comes up and says this is a clip fader. So it's only going to adjust the values or the audio levels of this particular clip. Let me zoom out just a hair. There's the intro clip right there. Let me make this a little bigger so we can take advantage of that space on my timeline. I've just now stretched out the height of that particular track. We'll zoom in one level or two. We're looking at a much larger picture of our particular clip on the timeline. So if I just click and drag the fader right now, you can see it adds a keyframe for me. and adjust the audio level on that one particular keyframe. If I now maneuver to the first keyframe, grab my fader. So just like that, I've adjusted the volume of my audio. If I pull this down even further, now I've got a fade in. But the point I'm making here, and if I zoom out just a hair, you can see I've only adjusted that one clip. What if I wanted to adjust the entire track? Can I do that? Well, absolutely. And that kind of requires us to take a look at the Settings tab up here on the top left of our screen. Now if I click on the Settings tab, okay, there's all kinds of stuff here. There's Visible Mixer Elements, Mix Automation, Verbose Mixer Tooltips, VoiceOver, and Classic Audio 1 through 4 Audio Routing. Well, let's take a look at the Visible Mixer Elements first of all. That's really where the meat of the new functionality of our audio editor is located. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose Track Input Type. And I want to point out that these are arranged in a level, and everything that comes into my mixer comes from the track, up through the bottom of the mixer, into the fader, up through the different functions here, and this is our panning tool, and you can see it's track output, not clip output. And then we go up through the solo, out through there, into the stereo mixer output, and then to our output mapping, which is over here. And before we take a look at that, let's go back. We will turn on Track Input Type. We'll go back to our mixer. So now you can see there's this stereo option with a little down caret arrow, and if I click on that, you can see I can change that to mono. Let me do this. Let me open up my audio tool, which shows me the output of my system. So let's follow the signal path that comes from my track up through the fader bus of that particular track, out of here, back down into the stereo mixer, and then out of the stereo mixer to the output. And then from the output, it either goes through my breakout box or to my 1394 embedded audio going down the Firewire stream. All right, so let me back up to the beginning here. I'll hit play. I don't hear anything yet, probably because it's down so low. So let's back up to the beginning of our piece here. We'll hit play and we'll just take a look at the audio flow. All right, so here it is, going from a stereo music track on my A1 track, up through the stereo mixer, out to the stereo bus, and then out to the output in stereo. Now, what if we were to come over here and change this to mono? Did you notice that the peak meter got a little narrower? Let me undo that. See, it's a little wider. Now we go back to mono. Now it's a little narrower. Now we'll start again, playback. Just one audio meter. And you can see my outputs are identical. The stereo has been lost. So that's what that does. That controls the input into this particular fader. And again, this is a clip fader. So what happens if we come over here? Let me delete this. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to jump over to my other project by right-clicking on the All tab, going to the What's New. And now my project browser down here turns into the What's New project browser. And now I'm looking into the music rack of the What's New project. And I think I will click on Engage. I will control-click on Desert Raja. I'll also click on Manhunter and what the heck, Centurion. Right-click, choose Copy. Right-click on the Alt tab. Go back to my working project, which is the audio editor. As you can see up the top of the screen here, I'm actually working in the audio editor project. So that's my working project, so click on there. Now my project browser has switched back to the working project, the audio editor project. Right-click on Audio, choose Paste. It pastes all that music over there. And you know what? I'll just click, drag, and drop the Centurion music over here. And so there it is. So again, it's also coming in mono. Notice the mono playback. One level. Let me switch this back to stereo. And now you can see the audio meters. There's two particular discrete bands. And there I am peaking into the red. Lovely. So again, this is track input type. Stereo or mono. Before we go any further, I just wanted to point out when I mouse over the fader here, you can see it says clip fader. Right click to show hide clip volume keyframes. And notice when I right click, my blue line, which is the show volume levels, goes away. If I right click down here, I can turn that back on, or I can right click up here, right click up here, right click, right click. So it's a toggle. So that's something new. Now what's this little plus mark up here in the upper left? Track output panning. So this is track specific, the entire A1 track, not just an individual clip here on the track, but the entire track. So if I were to click and drag the panning, does anything happen? Well, I don't see anything happening down here on the track. Let me mouse over that. Right click to show hide track output panning keyframes. You can see the green line is showing me the panning of this particular track. Again, this is track specific, and it's going across the Darklight and Centurion audio pieces. So again, track specific. Now again, if I go up here and mouse over the fader, you can see it says right click to show hide track output panning keyframes, or shift right click just to show the track output, because we are right now looking at the panning, which is the green, and the blue, which is the volume. So let's shift right click on that fader. And now we are only looking at the panning lines or the rubber bands here on this particular A1 track. Likewise, if I come down to my volume fader and right click, it turns the blue lines on and off. And now if I shift right click, it turns the panning off, so I can just look at the blue volume level lines. Now what if I wanted to be able to just pan within the scope of one clip and not pan across the entire track? Is that still available? Why, yes it is, and that again requires us to go up to the Settings tab, and we need to activate the classic A1 through A4 audio routing. And if we do that, a couple things happen. First of all, the classic routing tab shows up. If I click on that, does that look familiar to any of you? There's the classic output routing. There's channel 1. And again, we can adjust the different outputs based on pre-built sets, or we can define our own with a custom set by just clicking on the track. For example, if I wanted all of A1's audio to go out to the audio 1 output, I just do that, and now that's going out the way I need it to go. I wanted to do clip panning, right? So we go back to the Settings tab, and notice now clip panning is in my Visible Mixer Elements list. If I turn this on, don't remember how this got turned off, but let me turn the track input type back on. Now we go back to our mixer. There's our classic. Look at that. So now there's 3 options for our input. And if I go here to that little next plus mark, clip panning. So now you can see when I mouse over this, I actually just get the bubble help that says track input type. And when I come up here, now I get that bubble help clip panning. And that's where this belongs. So again, right click to show hide clip panning and balance. So if I right click there, look at the yellow line right here. And now I've got individual adjustments. So now it's just clip specific. So now my panning is within one clip. I could automate all these different functions by marking in and out points on the timeline. So now if I hit automate and start our playback, I hit the record in point, and now I'm just going to start fading it to the left, fading it to the right, fading it to the left, fading it to the right. We hit the out point. It says, do you want to keep that? I'll say sure. Now there's that panning on my particular clip. I was only hearing it through my left speaker. Let's go back. When I pan it to the left, it's still there. When I pan it to the right, now why is it only coming out one track? It's only coming out one side. Now why is that? Oh, because in the classic routing on the A1, some guy set this up so that all the 4 channels of audio that are assigned to A1 all go out to the A1 output. So does everybody understand that within each audio track you can have 4 individual channels? Because if you recall in our logging tool, and let's go there very quickly, just click on the logging tool. We'll choose, yeah, that's fine. And you can see it says device not ready. Let's switch to live. you can see in the logging tool I can capture 4 audio channels. So when I drag and drop that video and audio onto the timeline, it's going to split the video and audio. I have the option to have the audio on one track, and you can see here on this track I've got left and right. But if I captured all 4 audio channels with my video, when I drop that audio onto a separate track, instead of just 2, there's going to be 4 discrete channels on that one track. So let's get out of here. So again, that's why we have A1, A2, A3, and A4 under A1. I have the possibility of 4 audio channels per track. And then all 4 of those channels go out to the A1 output. So using the classic routing, I have the option of going out to all 4 channels if I have a device that supports 4 audio inputs. For example, a professional DV recorder with 4 audio inputs. Now, if we wanted this audio to show up on both channels, left and right, we need to go to something like standard. And now if we go back to A1, you can see A1 is going to the left channel, A2 is going to the right, A3 is going to the left, and A4 is going to the right. And if we had that device that supported the recording of 4 discrete channels, we would choose multi-channel. And now you can see, if we go back to A1 audio on A1 track goes out to channel 1. A2 audio on A1 track goes out to channel 2. This gets a little confusing with our track named A1, and then we've got A1 here. So let's rename this track Music. Okay, so now maybe that won't be so confusing. Why wasn't this renamed Music? Well, we need to refresh, I think. So we go back here, we go back to our classic, and there it is, Music. And so now, if this makes a little more sense, with the multi-channel output selected in the classic routing, the audio 1 channel goes to the audio 1 output, audio 2 to audio 2, audio 3 to audio 3, and audio 4 to audio 4. But then again, most of us don't have a device that supports the import of 4 discrete audio channels in the capture stream. So perhaps this is a moot point, but just to talk about this a little bit, just to try and give you a better grasp of how this works. Let's go back to our standard output. I'll open up my audio tool so I can see the audio outputs. We'll go back to our mixer, and now if we play through this, we should see it on both channels. And indeed we do. And again, why is that? Well, that's because in the classic routing on the music track, we have audio 1 and audio 3 going to the A1 output, which would be the left channel. And we have audio 2 and audio 4 going out to audio 2 output, which would be the right channel. And then one other thing I want to point out, here in the mixer, when we play through this, notice we only have 2 channels showing up because, again, in classic routing, there's the potential for 4 channels per track. So enough on classic routing. Let's go back to the settings. We'll turn off clip panning, and can we turn off classic output routing? We should be able to. It's not letting me. Now, I've learned through experience, if I go to another timeline, let me close down the audio mixer. So there is classic routing available to be turned on and off. And I think it has something to do with custom set. It seems a little buggy here, so I'm actually pointing out a bug to you. And I'm doing that to help you. Instead of scratching your head and sitting there thinking, why can't I turn classic routing off? Oh, it's gone grayed out again. So again, let's go to custom set. We'll switch over to a couple of different sequences. It's available to switch on and off here. So now if we go back to what's new, there we go. Now we can turn it on and off. So a little bit buggy there. All right, so classic routing is off. And now the classic routing tab is gone, which would indicate to me that we can no longer do clip panning because that is a function of classic routing. Now I can still see clip panning here on this particular clip. Alright, so even though I turned off classic routing, it still seems to be applying its properties. Let's go back to settings. Let's turn on track input type. Go back to my mixer. Aha, you can see the classic input type is still activated. If I switch this over to stereo, there goes my clip panning, and now we are back to where we were. So now that we're back in the new setting and we've gotten rid of our classic, let's talk about the output mapping and take a look what's going on. So right now we've got the music track, which used to be the A1 track, but it makes a little more sense to name it what it is, right? So now if we come up here to the output mapping, goodness gracious, what's going on here? So you can see the output mapping now looks completely different from the classic view. Kind of, sort of. So we've basically got a graph here. We've got stereo, surround sound 5.1, and surround sound 5.1.2. Now this is a second surround sound bus that I added, and I haven't found a way to delete it yet, so there we go. But let's concern ourselves first of all with the stereo, because if you recall, coming into this track we are coming in stereo. So okay, stereo left and right. On a fuse export routing, left channel is going to the left, the right channel is going to the right, and the left channel is going to a front left surround mix, and the right channel is going to a front right surround type mix, and we would need to enable the matrix surround to make this work in a pseudo surround way. So if we scroll to the right, and I'm just going to use my little button here to take it nice and slow, the next option is the ASIO, audio stream in and out, DirectX full duplex driver, and you can see it's using my Sound Blaster Live card. And in this case, the stereo left is going to the channel 1 output on the Sound Blaster Live, and the stereo right is going to the channel 2 Sound Blaster Live output. And by clicking on these guys, I can change this. There's a mono mix, or I can reverse these by clicking. There's reversed. So usually channel 1 is left and channel 2 is right in the audio world. Just by clicking on these boxes, I can change the routing. And then finally, over here on the right is my 1394 output routing, or excuse me, output mapping. Think of this output mapping as a virtual patch panel, if you will. I can plug my cable from the stereo left output of Liquid Edition and plug it into the left output of the 1394. So when it goes into my DV device, the left channel from Liquid Edition is going to go to the left channel of the DV recorder. And the right channel of Liquid Edition is going to go out to the right channel of my 1394 device. Now, if that's a little too basic, please pardon me. I'm sure there's some of us out there that need to hear this. But again, think of signal flow. Whenever you think of audio or video, it's always a great idea to think of the path the signal takes. And that's basically what's happening here. This is controlling the path my audio signal takes out of Liquid Edition and into the output devices connected to my computer.